Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to talk about the wild price ride that Scarab of Radiant Storms has had that you might have missed if you were just looking at this graph on POE.ninja. The reason for this is a hoax post that has managed to fool a number of people into buying very large numbers of this Scarab at inflated prices. I wanted to put together a little bit of a warning here. This is the dark side of Faustus's currency exchange. This is the way that players will use it in order to try to enrich themselves at the expense of the broader Path of Exile community. Let's have a look quickly at the real price of Scarab of Radiant Storms as it's been tracked over the last couple of weeks. You'll see it was 3 chaos early, dropped to 2 chaos, dropped to 1.5, and dropped to 1. This has been the price as measured by successful transactions that have been picked up through the trade API and aggregated on POE.ninja. Let's have a look instead at Faustus's currency exchange today. What you will see here is that there's a fair bit of buying demand at 6 Chaos Orbs to the Radiant Storm Scarab, so there's people wanting to buy 102 of them at that price. Then there's a very large amount of demand at 4 Chaos. There's 596 Scarabs demanded there. On the flip side, people selling this Scarab, they're not really a large number of them, and they're selling it for 9, 10, 11, even 20, 28 Chaos. So what exactly has gone on here? Well, this is the reaction to a hoax post that was made on the Path of Exile subreddit. Now, the reason I'm confident that this is a hoax post is that if this was a legitimate post, there'd be a whole lot of other information about it. For instance, some of the biggest Magic Find streamers, people like Fubgen, they would have been carrying out this strategy online. Anyways, here is the post in question. There's a number of things in it that make it really stand out as dubious. So firstly, it is by someone whose entire Reddit history is 3 posts total. This is the 3rd post this Reddit account has ever made. And it is by someone with the very charming name of Pissjiggle. Anyways, leaving names aside, I do use a reasonably uninformative name myself online. They do say here, no, people are not price fixing uniques. How we are making 5 headhunters per map. And in doing this post is really interesting. Firstly, it invokes envy in people. We're making 5 headhunters per map. That's absolutely crazy. But it does so in a way that doesn't trigger disbelief. Because if they'd said we're making 5 Magebloods per map, that would stand out as completely impossible. Leave aside the fact that Headhunter and Mageblood are the same rarity. Grinding games put them at the same rarity, and it's just that players want Mageblood more, which is the reason that Mageblood's more expensive. But that said, Headhunter and Mageblood, they're the same rarity as each other. So even is Beano's kitchen knife. No, people are not price fixing uniques. Everyone in Path of Exile hates a price fixer. And so this is designed in order to make you angry and to make you think the game is unfair. Well, where are you going to get votes for something that is rage bait and that makes you think the game is unfair? On the Path of Exile subreddit. Normally, and this is a bit of an exception honestly, normally a post that is dishonest rage bait would get a lot of upvotes there. Anyways, it then goes on to detail a strategy that has been tested by a number of people. This strategy works, it's not dysfunctional, but it's also not extremely effective either. They claim here, 3.25 introduced a Scarab called the Scarab of Radiant Storms that adds a Tempest to your map when stood in. It gives you 50 quantity and 150 rarity, I think it's actually 50 and 50, and claims that this slowly tricks down to 0. However, when a mob stands in this, it gets 1,000 quantity, 1,000 rarity. Now, when a mob stands in it, it does get 1,000 quantity and rarity, but I believe that's the part that ticks down. Anyways, this introductory paragraph is mostly true, possibly a little bit wrong on the edges. Then they make the claim, our group consists of this, and then they outline a group that's designed to be something that you probably can't put together yourself easily. Immortal Vile Cyclone Gladiator with Hateforge, Magic Find Color, Support Champion, Penance Brand Carry, and 2 Leech accounts. Then talks about running 100% Delirious Tier 17 Fortress maps with a bunch of difficult Scarabs, ones that make the maps way harder. And then once you do that, it then simply turns every item that drops into a unique. Now, a number of people have tested if it is still possible to make every item that drops upgrade to a unique, and that was possible in patch 3.24. It was possible back with bug maps, I think in 3.12, but it hasn't been possible since, except maybe in 3.23 with extreme amounts of rarity from the Wildwood. In any case, this is just simply not true. And on top of that, even if every item that dropped in the map was upgraded to unique, it's not going to be enough to get you 5 headhunters per map, because there is no way to bias towards the rarer unique items. So when you get a unique item, if it's eligible to be a headhunter or eligible to be a mage blood or a Calandra's touch or a squire or whatever, it's still about 1 in 40,000 that you're going to get a headhunter. And for every 1 headhunter that you get, you're going to see something like 1,000 worms molts. Then of course it finishes with a line that is designed to make you think, oh yep, Grungy Games made another mistake, and something that's going to make the game less fair for ordinary players. In short, this is a very effective rage bait, and that's the reason that a number of people paid attention to it, the reason that the Scarab of Radiant Storms increased in price. Fortunately, it hasn't increased in price as much as might be expected for an item as rare as Scarab of Radiant Storms. If this had really gone viral, if it had been upvoted rather than downvoted, if it hadn't had someone come along, Shodokan123 here, and slap it down and say, this does not seem to be true early on, then it's possible that we might have seen the Scarab of Radiant Storms jump up to 20 or 30 chaos, at which point the perpetrators of the hoax would cash out, and they would end up selling their 20,000 or whatever number of scarabs they bought at an extremely inflated price, and laugh all the way to the bank at the expense of other players. The real thing that makes this plausible though is that this is the detrimental side to something like Faustus's currency exchange. Faustus's currency exchange is great. It is more upside than downside, but I do think it's worth remembering that there is a downside to it, and that is that once you commit to a trade, you are at the mercy of the buyer at that point, and you can't back out if you then realize that, oh, I'm getting ridiculous buyer activity that shouldn't be the case because it looks like I've been fooled by price fixers. If that's the case, the price fixing strategy or whatever it is has already worked by the time you realize that something was wrong with your read on what the price really was. That's the danger of the currency exchange. I do think it's a net positive for the game, but I do think everyone should be aware of this and just keep your eye out for any intentional misinformation that might be spread, because posts like this are the sort of thing that can end up causing a lot of people to lose a lot of currency, and can also make some of the worst people in Path of Exile a lot of currency if they go unchallenged. If you do see something that looks like it's a complete hoax, then call it out. And if it turns out that you're wrong, just apologize, because sometimes there will be something that's broken and you can say afterwards, okay, I didn't believe that was true. I apologize, you were right, I was wrong. There's no shame in that, but being skeptical of claims that seem ridiculous is something that can stop people from winding up in a pretty awkward spot where they realize they have bought a whole bunch of scarabs at inflated prices based upon complete nonsense information. One final word though, I do genuinely think this scarab is good. I just think it's good on a basis of adding a lot of loot per map, and that's different to adding a lot of loot per hour. It's very good, but it may not be the best thing you can do, and in Path of Exile generally, the best thing you can do is expensive, the second best thing you can do tends to be pretty cheap. I'm going to leave it there. May your Varlobs and your Scarabs have interesting results.